Welcome, movie lovers. Imagine being buried alive by those you trusted most. Can Clint Goodman escape his premature grave and get his revenge? Dive into the thrilling twists and turns of the 1990 movie Buried Alive and witness a man's relentless fight for justice. If you crave suspense and thrilling twists, don't miss Buried Alive. Watch now and join Clint Goodman on his harrowing journey of survival and vengeance. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon for more riveting movie recaps. Let's dive right in. At a construction site, Clint enters his office to call his attractive wife, Joanna. He tells her that he will miss her as she will be working over the weekend. Joanna, however, seems displeased. After the call, she steps out to collect the mail while their dog barks persistently in the background. Back at the office, Clint attends to a visitor who presents him with an appealing business proposition. Later that day, as Clint is driving, he is stopped by the local sheriff, Sam. Sam invites Clint to go fishing over the weekend, and since Joanna will be away, Clint agrees. Upon arriving home, Clint releases their dog, Duke, before joining Joanna, who still wears a look of discontent. She does not prepare dinner for Clint, explaining that she is late for a doctor's appointment. As they converse, Clint mentions a client who earlier offered $1.5 million for his business, an offer he declined. This upsets Joanna, who expresses her desire to live in the city rather than being confined to their house like a rat in a maze. This sparks a small argument, with Clint reminding her that he built the house for them to settle down and raise children. Unfortunately, they have not been successful in having a child, though Clint remains patient and his love for Joanna remains strong. Joanna, however, wants the money and a return to New York. She leaves the house angrily, leaving Clint alone with his thoughts. Later that weekend, Clint goes fishing with Sam. During their fishing trip, Sam asks Clint how things are going with Joanna. Clint confides in him, especially about Joanna's yearning for city life over a quiet country house with kids running around. Meanwhile, it is revealed that Joanna has been cheating on Clint with the local doctor, Cortland. Cortland informs her about a new clinic deal that promises a glamorous life in the city. However, there's a catch. Clint cannot be part of their future. Joanna suggests getting a divorce, but Cortland insists on a more permanent solution. He produces a vial containing a toxin derived from the ovaries of one of his exotic fish, explaining that it will make Clint's death appear as a heart attack. Joanna hesitates and initially decides against it. As she prepares to leave, Cortland secretly slips the vial into her bag, urging her to reconsider. Back at home, Joanna empties her purse, causing the vial to fall out and leak. Initially, she contemplates poisoning Clint, but ultimately, she throws the vial into the trash. When Clint arrives home, he finds Joanna making dinner. He kisses her and heads to his workshop. The noise from the workshop irritates Joanna as she tries to enjoy her wine and cooking. In a fit of anger, she retrieves the toxin from the trash and pours it into a glass of wine. At that moment, Clint enters, startling her. Unaware of the vial, Clint grabs both wine glasses and helps set the table. During dinner, Joanna is too scared to drink her wine, uncertain which glass contains the poison. When Clint proposes a toast, she panics and claims to feel unwell. Clint then takes a sip from his glass after managing to get Joanna to toast with him. Suddenly, Clint begins to convulse, and Joanna realizes he drank the poisoned wine. As he struggles in pain, he reaches out to her, but she coldly tells him to let go. With a mixture of heartbreak and betrayal, Clint succumbs and collapses. Joanna immediately calls Cortland, who assures her that he will handle the situation from there. That night, Sam, the coroner, and Cortland retrieve Clint's body and discuss burial arrangements while Joanna sits nearby, feigning grief. Sam voices his suspicion about Clint's sudden death, given that Clint appeared perfectly healthy during their fishing trip. He insists on an autopsy. Cortland, trying to dissuade him, notices the vial on the floor near the sheriff's feet. He signals Joanna, but they remain calm until Sam leaves without noticing the vial. Once alone, Cortland hurriedly picks it up and sarcastically asks Joanna if she intends to give him a heart attack as well. Despite the tense moment, their plan seems successful as Clint's body is taken to the refrigeration room. That night, there is a hint that Clint might still be alive, or perhaps something supernatural is at play, as his head turns to the other side while in the refrigeration room. The next morning, Clint's body is taken by the morticians for preparation. The coroner receives a call from Cortland, informing him that Joanna has requested a quick, inexpensive funeral. The morticians, initially set to begin the embalming process, are informed that they'll need to cut costs. This means no embalming, and they must use an old coffin that will be polished for the burial. On the day of the funeral, Duke, Clint's dog, barks incessantly at Joanna, sensing her deception. As she approaches the coffin, she puts on a show of crying and pretending to be in pain. Later that night, Joanna is seen in a tub with Cortland, both laughing over her performance and the success of their plan. Meanwhile, Duke continues barking uncontrollably as a storm rages outside. Joanna, irritated, leaves the tub, grabs a gun, and heads to Duke's cage, with Cortland following curiously. She shoots open the lock and tries to shoot Duke, but he escapes. Cortland calls her crazy, and they laugh as they return to the house. Duke, on the other hand, scurries back to the cemetery and lies beside Clint's grave. The rain causes the soil to loosen, seeping into the coffin and awakening Clint. Confused and terrified, he struggles to get out. The shabby coffin begins to fall apart, allowing him to punch through and reach the surface. Duke, initially scared, keeps a safe distance, barking as Clint manages to free himself from the grave. Once free, Duke greets him, and together they stagger back to the house, Clint's hands bruised and bloody. Upon reaching the house, Clint finds the door locked, so he heads to the kitchen window. There, he sees Joanna kissing Cortland. For a split second, Joanna catches a glimpse of someone at the window, but Clint quickly dives out of sight. Worried, Joanna tells Cortland, who checks the window and assures her it's just the dog. Joanna laughs it off, but still feels uneasy. That night, after Cortland leaves for work, Clint breaks into the basement, spending the night away from the rain and cold. The following day, Joanna meets with Clint's lawyer to discuss transferring Clint's properties to her. She also offers to sell the business for $1.5 million, demanding the payment in cash within 48 hours. Meanwhile, Clint wakes up in the basement and heads upstairs to the kitchen. He drinks some water and eats from the fridge before realizing Joanna is on her way home. He quickly returns to the basement to grab a gun and some ammo. Due to his injuries, he struggles to load the gun, dropping the ammo. After managing to load one bullet, he heads upstairs with the intention of shooting Joanna. Joanna enters the kitchen and notices the fridge is open. She shuts it and goes to freshen up. Clint follows her and is about to shoot when the doorbell rings, saving her. Joanna answers the door to find Sheriff Sam, who has come to check on her. She invites him in and offers him a drink. While he's drinking, Sam mentions he heard she's selling the business and the house. Joanna hides her panic and explains that she doesn't know how to run a business and that there are too many memories in the house for her to stay. After Sam leaves, Cortland arrives, claiming he came to check on his patient. Joanna immediately tells him they need to leave, fearing the sheriff might be on to them. Cortland reassures her that they have until tomorrow to get the money and can leave immediately after. Clint, realizing he only loaded one bullet, goes back to load another, determined to end Cortland's life as well. Returning upstairs, Clint overhears Cortland and Joanna discussing how she had been pregnant, but Cortland had helped her with an abortion, so she wouldn't have to be tied to Clint. Devastated by this revelation, Clint decides that using a gun would be too easy. That night, he waits for Joanna to fall asleep before grabbing a pair of scissors and heading to the bathroom. He tends to his wounds, washes up, and changes his clothes before leaving. The next morning, the clients arrive at the house with a briefcase full of cash to finalize the sale of Clint's business. After the men leave, Joanna is thrilled and ready to leave the moment Cortland returns home. Meanwhile, Sheriff Sam arrives at the cemetery, meeting the coroner and mortician over Clint's empty grave. The mortician claims it was like that when he arrived in the morning, and the coroner is worried this incident could tarnish his reputation. He suspects someone has dug Clint out, but wishes to keep the matter secret. Sam instructs them to take the coffin to his house and not to tell anyone until he has completed his investigation. Back at Clint's house, Joanna is jubilant over her newfound wealth. She heads to the bathroom to freshen up, but is shocked to find the place in disarray. Realizing she is not alone, she quickly locks the door. After calming herself, she grabs a weapon and attempts to call Cortland, but he doesn't answer, so she leaves a voicemail asking him to come home immediately, fearing someone is in the house. She then heads to the basement to grab the gun but encounters Duke and starts to back up slowly. As she tries to shoot Duke, Clint sneaks up on her wearing a welder's mask. Shocked, she fires the gun, which sends her flying into the basement. Clint then locks her up while she lies unconscious on the floor. He proceeds to seal the windows and any possible exits in the house. Meanwhile, Cortland is finishing up at work. He extracts toxins from another one of his fish before listening to his voicemails. However, he only listens long enough to hear the first message warning him to pay his 6 months' rent or face eviction. He misses Joanna's urgent message. Upon returning home, Cortland takes out the syringe and begins calling for Joanna, who doesn't respond. He searches the house and finds the briefcase with the money, but still no sign of Joanna. Joanna, waking up, hears Cortland calling and initially thinks he's the one who attacked her. As she tries to hide, Clint opens the basement door, allowing Cortland to find her. When Cortland enters the basement, Joanna attacks him with a rod, causing him to drop the poison vial, which rolls to a corner. She tries to escape with the briefcase, but Clint locks them both. Now certain there's a third person involved, Joanna regrets hitting Cortland. As Cortland regains consciousness, Joanna apologizes, explaining she thought he was the attacker. Cortland, pretending to be hurt, claims Joanna doesn't love him if she could think he would hurt her. He offers to burn all the money to prove his love. Convinced, Joanna apologizes and tells him she loves him. Meanwhile, they hear Clint moving furniture upstairs. Cortland tells Joanna they must escape first, attempting to shoot the lock open, but realizes Clint has tampered with the ammo. He successfully breaks through a sealed window but finds Duke barking outside, leaving them trapped in the basement. Upstairs, Clint is busy remodeling the house in anger, tearing through walls and even sawing through their wedding photos, saying he can always remodel the house since she didn't like it. The next day, Joanna wakes up to Cortland expressing his suspicion that the sheriff is behind their ordeal, aiming for a share of the wealth. As Cortland rages, Joanna notices the poison vial on the floor. Realizing Cortland has been using her all along, she confronts him. They struggle, and Cortland eventually gets hold of the vial, deciding to use it on whoever is pranking them. He grabs the briefcase, and they navigate through the maze of the remodeled house, encountering multiple dead ends. They get separated, and Cortland faces Clint first, trying to make a deal but intending to subdue him with the poison. Realizing it's Clint, Cortland panics and falls onto the poison. Clint then goes after Joanna, chasing her into a small hole leading to a wooden coffin. As she pleads for her life, Clint reminds her of how she said she felt like a rat in a maze and questions the gender of their unborn child, but deems it irrelevant. He pushes Cortland's body into the coffin with her and seals them in, then burns the building and drives off with Duke, leaving them trapped inside. Meanwhile, Sam, uneasy about Clint's case, goes to the basement where Clint's coffin was kept. Realizing Clint escaped on his own, he heads straight to Clint's house but finds it burning and calls the fire department. The following morning, he returns to Clint's grave and sees a man with a shovel. Recognizing Clint, Sam tells him to leave and never return, implicitly promising to keep the secret. As Clint drives away with Duke, we see Joanna still alive, trapped with the lifeless Cortland and the money in Clint's grave. Joanna screams helplessly for help, but no one is coming to save her. And so ends the tale of betrayal, vengeance, and poetic justice. Buried Alive is a masterful thriller that weaves a tale of treachery and revenge with precision. Frank Darabont's direction keeps the tension high, and the performances, especially by Tim Matheson and Jennifer Jason Leigh, bring depth to the story. The film's atmospheric tension and well-crafted plot twists make it a standout in the thriller genre. While some scenes may feel a bit dated, the core narrative remains compelling, making it a must-watch for fans of suspense and revenge dramas. Share your thoughts about Buried Alive in the comments below, and let us know which movie you'd like us to recap next. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to hit the like button, subscribe, and ring the bell icon so you never miss an update. Your support helps us bring you more thrilling movie recaps and reviews. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next video.